President Trump making it clear he will not be participating in Wednesday night's Republican presidential debate. The leading candidate for the GOP nomination saying on Truth Social that he won't be doing that. And also, a new CBS poll just out, he says, has me leading the field by legendary numbers, he writes. Trump, 62%. The public knows who I am and what a successful presidency I had. He writes, I will therefore not be doing the debates. Now, it is unclear if that's just for this week's GOP primary debate on Wednesday or all the scheduled ones. Now, Trump recently spoke to us here on Newsmax about his reason not to debate.
When you're at 75, 78, 80%, and other guys are at 0, 1%, 2%, 3%, you do say, what's the upside? Am I going to go up 1 point? But they could go up. You know, they're not dumb people. They're senators, they're governors, they're intelligent people. You have some very good people. I think you have some very good people, and you have some people. I mean, I have a problem with the debate for another reason. I wouldn't sign the pledge. Why would I sign a pledge? There are people on there that I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have certain people as, you know, somebody that I'd endorse. So they want you to sign a pledge. But I can name 3 or 4 people that I wouldn't support for president. So right there, there's a problem.
Well, not just the debate this week, there is a surrender deadline for the former president. And joining us now to talk about that is Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. He's also the author of the book, Get Trump, The Threat to Civil Liberties, Due Process, and Our Constitutional Rule of Law. Welcome in, Professor Dershowitz. Good to see you.
Thank you.
We have this deadline. He's expected to surrender with the co-conspirators by noon Friday to the Fulton County Jail, which has now become another story in and of itself, what we've learned about that. Tell us a little bit, Professor Dershowitz, about the negotiations we hear that are happening between Trump's team and DA Willis. It's about the release, the bond. The judge is also considering certain factors. What's going on behind the scenes this week for that?
This is very typical when a person is surrendering. Usually there's negotiations about the terms of the surrender, about whether there'll be a mugshot, whether there'll be a perp walk, whether you can agree on bail conditions. All of it's relatively routine. The unique part of this case is it will probably be on television. I'm not sure President Trump wants it to be on television. I'm not sure the government wants it to be on television. I'm not sure the judge wants it to be on television, but the American public has the right to see this trial. It's one of the most important trials in modern American history, and it should not be hidden behind closed doors. Every one of us should be able to see it and make our judgments based on real-time observations rather than reports by CNN, MSNBC, and the New York Times, which obviously will skew the reports very much against Donald Trump.
Obviously.
If I were, I would want this case on television.
And do you think he will be mugshotted? Do you think that he will be brought in? It will be swift, but they will, as the sheriff has said, try to treat him like anybody else, even though we know there'll be Secret Service and whatnot?
If I had some money to invest, I would invest in a T-shirt company that will publish the picture of Donald Trump, the mugshot, on a T-shirt. It will be the best-selling T-shirt in modern history. There's no reason for there not to be a mugshot, no reason for there not to be fingerprinting. That's routine. If it's done in other cases, it could be done in this case. What is not routine is that he's running for president of the United States, and the trial will not be in 6 months, as the DA said she was trying to get it. It will not be on January 2nd, as the Washington, D.C. Trial is now being pushed to have on January 2nd. These are very complicated cases. There must be opportunity to prepare, and the trials probably will occur in a year, or maybe a little less than a year, but certainly not in 4 months or 6 months.
Professor Dershowitz, let's talk about the case against Hunter Biden. Politico had a report showing more than 300 pages of previously undisclosed emails and documents exchanged between Biden's defense team and the DOJ prosecutors. There's a little bit of light being shed on these negotiations, and one of the exchanges I want to get you to react to is his attorney, Christopher Clark, who recently now has asked to be pulled off the case, said that they would call President Biden to the stand. And the legal team even suggested in these cases that there would be constitutional chaos if the president was called to testify. Do you think David Weiss, who was, heading it then and is heading it now as special counsel, was worried about this? Was he bullied by Trump's legal team? I mean, by Hunter Biden's legal team here?
I don't know if he's bullied, but he's the wrong person for the job. Delaware is a small state, and it's well known for its legal corruption. It's a state where everybody knows each other, and you can't win a case unless you get local counsel. It's called home cooking. And of course, David Weiss has known and had contact with the Biden family over the years. I can't imagine anyone worse to be an independent investigator of a case that is focused on Delaware but goes beyond Delaware. Also, the regulations say a person can't be appointed as special counsel if he is outside the government. And you don't start a case like this, which is so controversial, by breaking the regulations, breaking the law. And so I don't truly trust the negotiations. The emails also suggest at some point that Weiss seemed to be agreeing to drop all the charges. And then maybe he was pressured to say, well, maybe we have to get something in exchange for that. So you'll have to give up your right to have a gun. But when you read these emails, it does not sound like it's an arm's length negotiation. I know one of the lawyers for Hunter Biden, and he's a great lawyer. I don't blame him for pushing and doing and pulling off every possible tactic he can. But I do blame the special counsel for being too willing to give in too easily.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do for your client. We all get that. But you're right. You talked about the layer of, how people know each other. And Washington Post, in fact, reporting that David Weiss was then acting U.S. attorney working with Joe Biden's eldest son, Beau Biden, back in 2010, reportedly worked on prosecution strategies. Pretty close work here. Beau at the time was the state's attorney general. So it goes way back. Professor Dershowitz, these types of personal relationships, could they be clouding Weiss's decision today? Because last check, too, we have until about October for a statute of limitations possibly on some of these charges he could file against Hunter Biden.
I have no doubt that consciously or unconsciously, personal relationships do impact these decisions. That's why the special prosecutor should be somebody who's above reproach, somebody from Montana, somebody from who knows what, somebody who's never had any contact with anybody involved in this case, somebody who's outside the government, perhaps a former dean of a law school, a former judge, somebody who's absolutely above reproach, but not Weiss. Weiss is compromised both by the fact that he's in the government and that he comes from Delaware.
Well, everyone is watching his next move for sure. Professor Dershowitz, great to see you. Author of the book, Get Trump. Thank you.
Thank you.